basically it doesn't make you confident that you have any worth to be in that kind of situation. So this is what I got to know about as an active service user. So I would add to my diagnoses consultation fatigue, you know, because they have this statutory duty to consult. So, oh right, well we better bring in some service users, but we don't want the ones who are going to be challenging and dribble and stuff. So we'll bring Alison because she can put a suit on and sort of look like one of us, so she'll do. So I was the poster child, I'd be the one that got invited to everything. People think that they are doing a co-production when in fact they're doing, this is in fact what they're doing. Capturing user views. How often do you do that? You know, I've had my experience captured more often than I've had hot dinners, honestly, and then it goes nowhere. It tends to go absolutely nowhere. And of course the cuts thing, that's great. Oh, we'll just get them to do it because then they don't expect to be paid naturally. But we must keep the control. And if it doesn't at least aim at the end to be transformative, but is simply something that's slotted into existing services by creating a co-production lead or some such nonsense, it will not be co-production. It will be simply what we've had already, rebranded co-production. Co-production has to be the creation of something that's new. To bring the two expertises together, the lived expertise and professional expertise together on an equal, valuing both. It's not negating professional expertise, so it shouldn't be quite so frightening and threatening for professionals. It's not saying we know better, necessarily, but actually there's something very powerful in bringing the two together on an equal basis. It's not user control, it's not user voice, it's none of those things. A lot of that is great, there's some fantastic examples of that going on. That is not what we're talking about if we're talking about the co-production. These are the sort of things that I think it can be, where we're not just engaged patients, active service user, blah blah blah, but actual co-design. As part of this fellowship, I'm doing an experience-based co-design project back on my old psychiatric unit. I was only in there a year ago. This time last year I was sitting in there on suicide watch, so when I get anxious like that it's because I'm still in early stages of recovery. I'm doing that. This experience-based co-design is a really good way of introducing these revolutionary ideas. Because don't make any mistake with this, is actually quite revolutionary and radical. But that, you know, you can actually make it seem a lot less scary by doing. The experience-based co-design will usually bring about some quite small changes that can happen as a result of using this technique, and therefore it starts to shift people's mindsets, because there's ways of organising services. You either just as professionals go ahead and do and you don't listen to the people using the services at all, or you listen to the people using the services and then go and reorganise the service on that basis on your own, or you listen to the people using the services and then together you redesign the service. That's the difference, that's the bit they tend to leave out. They capture the experience, they even use that in what they then go on and do, but we've been left behind at the consultation stage, and we've not been kept as partners throughout the whole process. And this is about leadership. I was defined as a patient leader, which I'm not sure I completely get it myself. But I think it's deliberately quite challenging for people, particularly in the NHS. I assume it's similar in Wales, but certainly in England there's an awful lot of fashionable talk about the need for effective leadership in the NHS. To begin with, they make the mistake that leadership and management are the same thing, which they're not. It's great if they do coincide, but actually we're not talking about that. And that a source of leadership is the people with lived experience within the system. Because I see leadership as something that's coming from inside. It's an inside job, self-leadership. Because a lot of the service user reps or patient reps, in my Kensington and Chelsea, it tends to be Twin Set and Pearls Brigade. My Health Watch committee looks like the Vicar of Dibley committee, if you can get that picture. That is because it's seen as volunteering and it's doing good work. So it's a certain demographic doing good works in retirement, perfectly well represented in that field at the minute. And because they're giving their time free of charge. There's no expectation that they themselves have some standards. So I did some training on how to be effective in this role, which means leaving my personal bugbears behind. All seen the service user or patient rep who comes in there with an axe to grind, personal and probably perfectly justified axe to grind, and brings it in there, the angry brigade. And that is actually not helpful either. So this isn't just all an attack on professionals. It's all of us need to get professional on a sort of in terms of our standards. Because I saw this in a doorway in Sweden. I got sent to a conference in Sweden, and I thought that I can see us, because Edgar Kahn was a civil rights lawyer. A lot of what he talks about sounds quite fluffy, it's babysitting pools and things like that, and that's quite clever of him, because actually, as a former civil rights lawyer from late 60s and 70s in the US, he is anything but fluffy, and very much sees this on a social justice level, because I do too, definitely, because that's the power shift. And it's about active citizenship. I mean, what a waste to have people sitting, say, in care homes, who have become passive. I was doing some voluntary work for Age Concern, and there was a gentleman came in and wanted help with his benefit forms or something, and he started giving us advice about how to reposition the office, and it was fantastic. Oh, if you just put that over there, you'll find it, because it turned out he'd been a very well-known architect in Italy, and he was in his 80s. And I thought then, what a waste of that resource if that person is to just be sitting there, doing bingo or whatever. It's how to harness those resources that may have become buried through this having been trapped in the system for such a long time. I had no awareness of any assets I had left at all. I was honestly completely and utterly passive. If you'd have tried to ask my view on any service I was using, I wouldn't have known. And that needs a lot of work. It needs you need to really work with people from a very early stage before you start then saying, we want you to help redesign this service. And I think, just to finish, Edgar said, this here, I think that sums it up really. That the war against the passivity, I think, is what co-production is about. My own experience was when I finally started to be allowed to have some say in my own treatment and what was best for me. That it was then and only then I started to make progress. I read all the theory around co-production, but I thought this is not going to be enough. I need to see how this is in reality. And I went and worked for 6 months in a mental health day centre in Camden, which is largely for homeless people, many of whom are street homeless, near King's Cross, so it's kind of homeless central. Now that used to be a soup kitchen, so there's an embodiment of the passivity, that you go in there, you get doled out your free meal and off you go again. And those doling out the meal feel quite good about themselves because they're doing good works for the needy. Now they have Edgar as an advisor there. They are part of the Time Bank, and it's the whole centre is run using co-production throughout. So the guys that go there, they start taking part in the running of the centre to whatever degree they are able or willing to do, and they get paid. They get paid in Time Bank credits. 1 hour of their time for one-time credit, and it's part of a massive King's Cross Time Bank, so they can access all sorts of different things. I mean, a group of street homeless guys came up to me and said, we know what we want to spend that time bank money on. I thought, well, I'm now the professionals I'm working with. I thought, well, you'd probably want to go to the gym or something. No, they wanted to go to the ballet. They wanted to go to Sadler's Wells. By the way, these are street homeless guys. Sadler's Wells to see the Nutcracker, because Sadler's Wells are part of the time bank. They were accessing rehearsal rooms and another time bank member, and that's how all those transactions were happening. And they got up there and they went there. I went with them to the ballet, and it was absolutely amazing. There's a light that comes. Most of these guys have never done legitimate work of any kind. They've grafted in various ways. But there's something about going and getting paid. And for me, I haven't worked. I'm a benefit scrounging layabout in the eyes of the Daily Mail. I have done countless volunteering type things. But there was something about getting paid at the end of my shift, getting actually paid these like Monopoly money notes. Showing that I've done an hour's worth of work and this is what I've got at the end of it, which I then chose to use for accredited training, and I did the City and Guilds in community mental health. I mean, that is something completely different than volunteering. I specifically wouldn't describe myself as a volunteer. I was a paid member of staff. I was just paid in an alternative way. But it hit me somewhere differently in terms of how I saw myself as a result of doing that work. And that's when I realised that this co-production is something different. And it's almost like this pilot light that switches on when I can feel it, when it's there. And that's an unbeatable feeling. And when you see someone get the message, like some of these doctors that I work with now, when I could see it tangibly, and one of them in particular, suddenly the penny dropped and I could see it in her eyes. And that is reward enough for me, actually. I get so much out of it. So I feel I've made a total mess of this presentation, but that's me for now. If there's any questions, if we have any time, I don't know, after my meltdown in the middle.
And I definitely don't think you made a big mess. I think you've had a slight 30-second pause, but it's absolutely fantastic. So, any questions?
Yeah, we do. I like the bit where we were on about that. It's all on an equal level, co-production, and we've got this big idea about this national partnership board now, and what we're trying to say is that all the big professionals, because we're all professional in our own respect, as you said before.
Yeah, in our standards.
They're all getting paid these big, massive wages, and then along comes the little Joe Bloggs, who's only who what it seems to be has only had the lived experience, is only going to get travelling expenses.
Yeah, if that even.
So why can't they use time banking to actually use it as a payment, if that's acceptable to the person that's going to do it? Or can't they get some sort of a job out of it, because that is going to take a big part of somebody's life. Yeah,
it's really important, and actually I put this forward now. I say, and it's not just time banking is one example of what you can do. The whole reward and recognition thing has to be sorted out. Otherwise, there's no point in waffling about equality or this, that, next thing, if it's not actually happening. Now, we know there's problems with benefits and things like that, but be a bit creative, because it's too easy to use that as an excuse. What I liked about doing this fellowship that I'm doing is that it doesn't feel exploitative. I do act as an advisor for all the other fellows' individual projects, but I'm getting development opportunities. It's opened so many doors for me. It's, I don't get paid for it. I get a bursary though. I get a generous bursary. They've enabled me to, and it's exactly the same bursary as the professionals get. In fact, it's probably better for me, because they just hand me my bursary and they don't ask me any questions about where it's going. Whereas they've got their employers to deal with and everything. But that's one example of actually I've got the upper hand, and why not for a change? But there aren't enough examples of that. But that needs doing, and they have to really look at what is your objection here. Is it really you're worried about them getting into trouble with their benefits and whether ATOS are going to think that, or is it really that you can't take what that says, that actually that person there who doesn't have a job title or a badge or whatever is at least as equal worth to yourself.
Yeah.
Just that's very
I-
much a difficult leap for many to take.
And I think that's where the actual challenge is, really.
It is.
It's not so much as is about they're getting into trouble with the benefits. It's more about, oh, woman heck, well, I've gone to university for so many, but that person might have gone to university for
Yeah.
a different thing.
That's the
But they've
thing, the
also-
assumption.
And life
Yeah.
is one big university.
And I would have really struggled when I was Miss High Powered, and if I'd have had somebody coming along and saying, have you actually thought of doing it a different way? Someone with, I wouldn't have been able to handle that.
Yeah.
So I can see
Yeah.
see what that's about, because I would have been exactly the same. But yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Would you be able to help me in, I'm a reactivate project worker, and without the volunteers giving up their hours and their wonderful work, I feel that they should be rewarded in some way. Now, due to the charities, obviously, restricted budget, I'm wondering how can we actually start or develop this time banking, because I do believe that our volunteers deserve some sort of payment, you know, in their own rights.
I don't know much about how developed or otherwise time banking is here in this neck of the woods. But to begin with, have a look at what's already going on and see if you can link in with existing time banks. And there are quite a lot of resources online for setting up your own. Like some of the most successful time banks were set up in individual GP surgeries, and they've kind of grown into the community as they've kind of spread out, because obviously people come into a GP surgery from all walks of life. And that's kind of, some of the most successful time banks in London has started off that way in like areas in South London, and it's kind of expanded. So, you know, I'll give you some links that you can look up. There are organisations that are set up to help you now as well if you want to set up time banking. I know that there's one called Spice, for example, that operates in Wales. And Edgar, I've been tipped off by Edgar, in fact, the other day, that he's coming to Wales in November. I don't know
We're on a
much
mission to get him in
information
November
yet.
now.
But we can see if we can winkle him, we can hijack him, we can nick him off of
He's been
whoever.
here once, I'm sure he wants to come back again.
Yeah, and you know so there's quite a lot going on. So it's definitely worth looking at. You know, it's
Yeah.
definitely so. Maybe I'll give you how to contact me, and we can there's time banking UK and things like that as well that you can maybe have a look at.
I think we've got some of that on the site, but whatever references Ali's got, we'll put them on the site. I'm just going to flip it down
Yeah,
quickly.
that's brilliant, thank you.
Can I also add that, just add to that, because I was just going to mention Spice, because they started in Wales, and I know they've gone UK-wide now, but they've still got a base in Wales. But North Wales, in the last couple of years, I was part of an initiative 2 years ago, just after we had the conference, the Communities Camp Conference in 2012. That was part of an initiative of developing one of the first time banks in North Wales, and that's in the coastal regeneration area between Prestat into Colwyn Bay, Mockdra. That's there, it's working. There are real challenges, you know. I think I'd encourage people, if you think you need and you've got what you need to set a time bank up, just find out, get people to help you, and go ahead and do it. You'll learn by doing it. There are real challenges, but if you've got in place the exchange, that's the key. If you've got people who want to give and take, you know, you've got the kernel.
that's half the
And
battle.
if you think about a babysitting circle, which is where Edgar, how he describes a time bank. There's lots of different models, you know, much more complex than that. But that's the basis of it. You know, you giving an hour of your time, and me giving an hour of my time, and there has to be an exchange as well. So I think the best ones grow from the ground up. If you've got groups that want to do it, you know, talk to it, and I can help with that locally. There's a lot of resource in Wales. We've got Time Bank Wales that's been established for a long, long time, and we've got the largest time bank in the Creation Development Trust in the valleys in South Wales. So a lot of it is down south, you know. One of my purposes was, you know, with others, was to create a North Wales time bank so that we could actually say, we've got a local one, you can go see how that works and start to, let them develop and grow and emerge elsewhere. So there's lots of people who can help.
Yeah, I'm a little bit conscious of time. But I think what we talked about last night as well, that it's a tool for
Yes,
successful
yeah.
co-production, isn't it? As you said, there are lots of different tools within it. So I think that's something that people have been very keen about. So I'm sure we can carry on that conversation. So send an email or whatever it is, and we'll try and flag something out. There's a couple more, one more question at the back, and then we'll
I
finish.
was really quick one. I thought you told us great. Can we have a Twitter user or something for your
Oh,
no.
now you're asking for trouble.
C375.
Yeah.
Don't ask me why.
Yeah.
Telephone code from Mint.
It's on the website actually, where we put the speakers, we put their Twitter name afterwards, so that
Oh
you
great, all my followers are going to go up
you
now.
got a little taste of what she was like before, if you wanted to see. So can I just say, we're going to clap now, so prepare yourself. So thank you very much. We're going to do a quick coffee comfort break now. I've just checked, there is coffee out there. I think there's coffee all day, and then we'll come back in and we'll finish the next part of the session, which should finish between 12:45 and 1. So coffee and biscuits now, and then all back.